Today I'm taking March Madness, the best tournament in all of sports, and letting college football teams battle it out. I've taken the structure of the college basketball tournament and rewarded the best 68 teams in the country from this past year. Some of the bubble colleges that just missed out include UCLA, Wisconsin, NIU, and Michigan State. But for the ones that were fortunate enough to make the tournament, I had to seed everybody, and I'm going to be showing those 4 regional brackets pretty fast, so if you want to find your team, you might have to pause the video. Anyway, we're going to be starting out in the East region, where Ohio State is the overall 1 seed, and we have one of our opening first 4 games to see which team plays the Buckeyes first. It's going to be between Cincinnati and West Virginia, who both didn't have the best of seasons, and just like March Madness, every game has to be played on a neutral site. It's not going to be Dayton hosting the first 4, it's going to be Detroit in our tournament, and I also made sure that every conference champion got an auto bid. What's important though is what's going to happen on this 4th and 3. West Virginia is going to pick it up, and the Mountaineers really needed that because they're currently losing by 7 points to Cincinnati with a minute left. Garrett Green is going to turn on the wheels though to get in, and we could have an overtime game before we even get to the main round. What's crazy is these teams are competing to play Ohio State, the national champions, so they're most likely going to lose no matter who comes out on top. But we all know the best part about March Madness is literally anybody can win any game. We have seen 16 seeds pull stuff off before, and what a dot from Cincinnati. They're going to respond back. It has taken no time for this one to be extremely entertaining, and I gotta say, it has been too long since I've done a tournament or imperialism style video. I've missed this. We're going to see what West Virginia can do with their final 31 seconds. Can they tie it up again? And my thought is probably not, but who knows? They still have another 73 yards to go, and you can tell that Garrett Green was feeling the pressure right there. He didn't even have time on this play. That's what Cincinnati was looking for though. They're going to move on to the round of 64, and we'll get to these other first 4 games once we get to the other regions. For now though, I just want to see if the Bearcats can pull off a huge upset, and I gotta say, the East region is pretty stacked. If Ohio State's going to win all of this March Madness tournament, they're going to have a lot to get through, and all the games in the East region are going to take place in the Orange Bowl Stadium. We just watched Cincinnati battle against West Virginia to get into this matchup, so I'm sure they were hoping that they put up a better performance than this, but they simply just could not stop the Buckeyes offense. Watching a 16 seed get blown out though isn't anything too shocking, and that's why the game between the 8 and the 9 seed is the one that I was looking forward to a little bit more. Both of these teams have their strengths and plenty of weaknesses, and one of the Wolverines' main ones from this past season was their offense. Davis Warren is just running backwards, so they have made things 2nd and 24. We're going to see if he can do anything with all this time back there. That's not much, but Texas A&M is dealing with some injuries. If Michigan is going to survive any longer in March Madness though, they're going to need a huge play like right here, going for a 50-50 ball, and I think this is going to be it for them unless they magically get 22 yards, which they don't. They turn it straight over to Texas A&M, making a read like I would, and Bryce Anderson's going to put it away for the Aggies. This is hopefully going to be the first of very many times in this video where the lower seed comes out on top, but this result is nowhere near an upset. Now, if Arkansas can pull it off in the next game, that would be, but I feel like Miami is a very dangerous 5 seed. They also get to take on the Razorbacks in their own stadium, but apparently that doesn't mean too much because the Hurricanes are losing with a minute left. Cam Ward running straight into a sack is not going to help them out either. You got to spike the ball, which is only going to leave them with 2 plays to pick up the first down. On 3rd and 20, he's going to get this one out. It's going to be deflected, and I can't believe this is how Miami could go out. It's Arkansas of all teams. This is one of the easier SEC ones to beat, including Kentucky. I'm going to include them as well. They didn't even make it to this tournament, but Miami gets the 4th and 20, and somehow the Hurricanes are still in it. There was just 0 pass rush from Arkansas. They also still have a timeout left that they're not going to need to use, and everything just changed really fast. Xavier Restrepo's a beast though. He was able to get open, and with 22 seconds left, the Razorbacks aren't out of it yet. You probably thought that you could write them off, but they've completed back-to-back passes. They're at the 24, and Miami had this one in the bag, but instead we're about to get overtime. They even tried to use their final timeout to ice Arkansas's kicker, but it isn't going to make a difference. And it looks like the Razorbacks are going to have the ball first, where they almost threw a pick. Don't tell me that they sent this to another period just to settle for a field goal on their first drive. They're picking it up on 3rd and 7. And what a risky call to run the ball there. I guess Miami wasn't expecting it, but now they're sending pressure. Taylon Green was feeling like Shedeur Sanders on that play. Got to get him an offensive line. He's able to complete this one though to his tight end, his favorite target. And I saw a stat line pop up, 300 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, but it's 4th and goal. I'm going to have to make fun of Arkansas whenever they just settle for 3 here. here because they just handed the Hurricanes the win. All that Cam Ward has to do is throw for a 25-yard touchdown pass, but they went with a run. And I'm trying to see that explosive Miami offense that we're not getting. A little bit of a letdown. On 3rd and 11, a simple RPO does nothing. And this is just not the time for teams' offenses to be playing scared. If you want to win the entire tournament, you only have to win like 6 or 7 games. And during that period, you got to be able to take some risks or else you're going to kick 3. It looks like Miami's about to do what they did on their first drive. And at this point, they're begging the Razorbacks to upset them. It's impressive that they're even in this in the first place, though, after that 4th and 20. And it's got to be time for Taylor Green to go to work at some point. Get the upset for your team. But whatever you do not throw an interception. Now he's trying to run for his life. Normally, these games move pretty quick. But we are getting pure Semina just a few matchups into this tournament. And Miami committed a penalty there. That's going to be an automatic first down. Never mind. They declined the roughing the kicker penalty. I don't know what Arkansas was thinking. They had a first down. They could have had another chance at scoring a touchdown. Instead, they've gone to 3rd overtime where they get the 2-point conversion. But they have made things harder on themselves for no reason at all. Miami is gonna fall short. And the 12-seeded Arkansas Razorbacks are gonna beat the Hurricanes. I guess we're just proving that the SEC is the best conference. That's the last thing I think a lot of people want to hear, though. Taylor Green with an amazing performance. And in the round of 32, he's going to get to face either Iowa State or Nebraska. It's time to watch Patrick Mahomes' clone go to work. And that's what he's done. We have a chance for another upset in this matchup right now. Nebraska is up by 6. So if the 4-seeded Iowa State Cyclones are going to survive, they're going to have to start moving the ball. With all the teams that were power ranked and put in this tournament, I knew there'd be a ton of parity. But I didn't think we were going to see a 12 and 13 seed move on this fast. Rocco Becht is just throwing it up, hoping for the best. And that's something you have to resort to whenever you're trailing by 6 with this little time left. He doesn't want to go for short passes. He's testing it a second time. But these Nebraska cornerbacks are refusing to give it up. We'll see what happens on 4th and 10. They left him open. And their fans are starting to get a little bit nervous. Poor Nebraska fans have seen way too many heartbreaking things play out before. I think they're the most gifted team at losing one-possession games where they could have just come out on top, but they almost got to the QB. And they're not going to feel good until that clock hits 0. They probably have this final play of just throwing it up. Rocco Becht doesn't get it out, though. And Nebraska survives. They've pulled off the second big upset we've seen so far. Funny enough, Iowa State's receiver was who won player of the game. But that legendary performance wasn't enough to get his team into the next round. I wasn't kidding about this region being stacked, though. We now get to see Colorado face off against Georgia Tech. And the Buffaloes have 2 players that should both be top 5 picks. One of those 2 players is going to need to come up big for them, though, on defense. And it's not Travis Hunter on that side of the field. It's another cornerback that's given up a huge touchdown, which has put Deion Sanders' team down by 5 with a minute left. Shedeur Sanders has already gotten them to midfield, though. Now he's going underneath to Jimmy Horn Jr. for another 10. And I remember watching Georgia Tech come up short against Georgia. So I'm not sure if we can trust them to finish this one out, pull off the upset. But Travis Hunter not being able to hold on to that ball almost led to an interception, and now they're slinging it to him, and he's in the end zone. That's the Heisman winner making clutch plays. But 21 seconds can be a lot of time, which makes this 2-point conversion important, and Shedeur just turned it over. Georgia Tech still wins with a field goal. And we'll see if Haynes King can pull off the miracle. He's starting this drive on his own 18, throwing it away. So if they're going to do this, they're basically going to need a huge play, and they don't get it. It was about time that a higher seed came out on top again. And all I can say about these first games is they've been incredible. Besides the Ohio State one, there has been 0 blowouts. And I think 14-seeded Virginia Tech could give Tennessee a run for their money here. I will say, though, they're in a pretty tough position. They're down by 2 possessions with less than a minute left. And they've refused to use any of their timeouts just in case they did get into the end zone. But as Kyron Drones continues to throw the ball away, it's looking less and less likely they get the first. Tennessee fans just want this game to end. And as long as the Hokies don't burn any of their timeouts, the door is still open for them. They're getting out of bounds with these catches, but you can see how fast the pressure just came in. And James Pierce Jr. just sealed it. If there was ever a time for Virginia Tech to start using their timeouts, they now take it. But that makes no sense. That was after running 15 seconds off the clock. It's over. I don't know why they're even trying, though that's a good throw. You know what? Onside kick, Hail Mary action. This could be a crazy comeback. And I promise, I don't just want to see Tennessee lose because I'm a Kentucky fan. I want to see it for the content. They're going to drop the onside kick. Oh my gosh. I am going to go ballistic. If Kyron Drones can get them into overtime, at least get the throw off to the end zone here, buddy. It's going far enough. It's going far enough. but it's not caught. What a shame. The comeback's gonna fall short. I'm glad that we stayed in that though. And for the first time in this video, we're about to see some non-Power 4 schools take the field. Louisiana is here to represent the Sun Belt, and we'll see if the Ragin' Cajuns have what it takes to get right past Missouri. Normally, I think they would, but the tournament just keeps on producing close matchups for us, and it doesn't seem to want to end that trend. Time is running down extremely fast. Louisiana has no timeouts, so they're gonna have to spike the ball, but they're only down by 7. And the Ragin' Cajuns could send this game to overtime. All they need is another huge play like they just had. I don't know much about this team, but I know that they're fighters. If they're in a position like this, they could definitely run for a little bit. Or their quarterback could just chuck it out of bounds, get them to a 4th and 10 where he completes the pass, and they're going to be short. All of a sudden, I'm starting to miss all of the underdog wins that we got to witness at the beginning. But maybe we get that with this next matchup. I know Indiana's a 2 seed, but even with the latest roster update, their overall is only an 85. They actually got off to a pretty slow start as well, going down 14-0, but at the end of the day, they're going to close this one out, winning against Sam Houston 38-20. That's basically doubling their score. And it's going to be interesting to see how far they can go when Curtis Rourke is fully healthy. For the East region of the bracket though, that's going to be it for a little bit. And now we're headed over to the South region where Texas is the number 1 seed, and they're waiting on the winner of Texas State and Liberty to see who they face. From what we saw the last time the 2 16 seeds faced off, this game didn't end up meaning too much. The loser of it is most likely not going to do too hot against a 1 seed, and it looks like there's not going to be much for us to check in on anyway because Liberty just dominated. They're going to have to turn around and play Texas though, who is the lowest ranked of all the 1 seeds, but they're still a 1 seed. There were ways to avoid getting in situations like this though, like having a better season in real life. And I was going to put each region on a different neutral site, but I'm not going to after this game. The reason for that is there's just a weird 10-second clip whenever you're spectating in this one, and that's in between every single play. I don't need to see 50 shots of the stadium while the clock runs. So that is the reasoning that every game in this March Madness tournament is now going to take place at the Orange Bowl. There had to be something else to talk about here. I mean, it was not an entertaining game, but that one went exactly how I predicted it would. After we got past that lopsided matchup in the last region though, is when we started to get to the good stuff, which is why I'm hoping that Iowa and Duke can deliver for us like Anthony Edwards' baby mama. Sure enough, with a little over a minute left, we have ourselves a game. Malik Murphy barely got that out, and it is going to be 4th and 9 where they complete it right past that defender. The Blue Devils are still in this thing. They're gonna get like no yards on this run, and they only have 2 timeouts left, so if they don't score on this drive, it's over. Let's say they do get in. If they don't get the 2-point conversion, it's also over. That is gonna be picked off by Iowa though. Was there ever any doubt? We got Cooper DeJean 2.0 finding the football, just turning around, getting a little pick. And if there is one thing I can expect whenever I watch the Hawkeyes, it's that I'm gonna see some good defense. Cade McNamara even managed to have a career high of 265 passing yards, which might not sound like a lot to you, but trust me, it is for them. We have Army and Vanderbilt in our next game, and the Black Knights are the first team that's taken the field in this March Madness bracket that actually had an automatic bid. As a conference champion, they're probably entering this game with a bit more confidence, but on the other side of the 2-minute timeout, they find themselves on a 4th and 5 that they're just gonna convert. At the moment, they're trailing by 12. They only have 2 timeouts remaining, so they have got to get into the end zone pretty quick. And they're lined up like they could just go with the fullback dive here, but instead Bryson Daly's throwing the football and it's caught. We'll see if the Black Knights can pull off the comeback. They still got work to do, and they've decided it's probably in their best interest to go for the onside kick, but they are not going to get lucky. With 3 stops though, they can still get the ball back. This looks like it's going to be a good start, and Vanderbilt lost 2 yards there, but on this next run they make it all back. If they don't get this 3rd and 7 though, they're going to have to kick a field goal. They have picked it up, and that's going to be it. The 12 seeds are undefeated so far in our version of March Madness. I believe that is the most common upset that happens in the first round of the tournament though, so it makes sense. And right after one conference champion loses, we have another one playing. This time around though, it looks like they're actually going to win their game. Clemson has doubled the score against Rutgers, so even if they did crack their way into the end zone, they're not going to come back with only 12 seconds left on the clock. That means the Tigers are going to be moving on to face Vanderbilt next, and I think for being a 4 seed, they could do some serious damage. Now, if there was a team to watch out for on the other side of the bracket in the South region, it would probably be LSU. They have a ridiculously high overall on this game, but we have some other matchups first. It is not going to be the entertaining finish that you all were probably hoping for though. With 10 seconds left on the clock, James Madison's down by 10, which meant there was no hope for a comeback there, and it's because they couldn't stop Jackson Meeks. Kyle McCord was simply just giving him good balls, and it's about time our lowest seeded conference champion, Jacksonville State, takes the field as a 14 seed. Every conference champion would have made the tournament out of the top 68 power rankings, whether they had that automatic bid or not. But Jacksonville State was the closest call, and they sure did not play like it. They're up by 14, and we know they're going to close out these final 11 seconds, but this is the biggest upset that we have seen yet. yet. The ball is just bouncing around in the air. BYU catches it. And is there even hope for the Cougars still? They would need to somehow score this touchdown in 2 seconds, recover an onside kick with no time on the clock. And I'm not sure if the ref even is leaving any after that play. For whatever reason, they're going to let them kick the extra point. But that's going to be the end of the game. Jacksonville State has pulled off the upset, and they're the lowest seed that we have seen win so far. If they can beat BYU, though, they could also stumble by Syracuse and find their way into the Sweet 16. And I'm sure that's something that both of these teams would appreciate. Only one team can move on past this matchup, though, and it's looking like it might be Minnesota. Despite having a 92 overall roster on paper, LSU is only up by 4 at the moment. They're looking to get a stop, and they've been able to force Max Brosmer into a couple interceptions so far, but I'm sure they're still hoping for one more. That sack has also done them wonders. They have been able to get the clock under 30 seconds left, but Minnesota just came up pretty clutch there. They got it to the 33. They used their final timeout, so they basically need to get like 1 yard per second left on the clock. They went for all of it, and I don't know why LSU fans are cheering. That was an incredible catch. The clock is still running though as they get up to the line. They're gonna have to spike it with only 6 seconds left. And I think what you do here is you pass, you get a quick throw out. If that does not work, you go for the run, but they're not gonna have to resort to that because they just won in the final seconds. I should have never jinxed LSU by saying they had a great chance to make a deep run. It turns out their roster being that good isn't gonna matter for them. And if you're a fan of the Gophers, what a moment for you all up there in Minnesota. You don't got any other colleges to root for. Max Brosmer might have had those 2 interceptions, but with a win like that, everybody has already forgotten about him. And I understand that UConn might not do too well here, but I'm just proud of their football program for even getting into the top 68. They also showed some good heart, some good competition. They came out and they're only going to lose this game by 14 points. If they wanted to come back, they would have had to score a touchdown here, but that was never going to happen. There was like no time left in this anyway. And the 2-seeded Nittany Lions are going to be moving on to play Minnesota in the round of 32. I honestly think they have a pretty straight shot to the Elite 8, except there's no guarantees. You never know when a team's going to get upset, and we will return to the South region in a little bit. Before we do though, we still have 2 other regions to tackle, like the Midwest region in the round of 64. And the team that's playing their first 4 game to get into that region is going to be East Carolina and NC State. We have a rivalry battle in North Carolina to see who most likely just gets blown out in their next game. But I think if a 16 seed were to somehow make a run past a 1 seed, it would be NC State. They didn't just come to play in this matchup, they scored on pretty much every single offensive possession that they had. And I'm surprised this is the dude that won the player of the game. That's only because CJ Bailey had 3 touchdowns. Their running back, Jordan Waters, also had 3 touchdowns. And everybody ate. It was a beautiful sight, but they're about to be really challenged. Notre Dame was good enough to get all the way to the national championship, and they're for sure not looking to go out early on in this tournament. Only being 3 overall is better though should at least give us a little bit tighter of a game. And what did I say? If a 16 seed was gonna win, this would be it. They're currently on a 3rd and goal where if they don't pick it up, they're gonna have to kick a field goal that's swatted down. And NC State has been set up to win this with a touchdown. They have plenty of time to do so, but they need to go like 85 yards. And we'll see if they're able to crack this Notre Dame defense. That first pass didn't work out for them, but this one's gonna get them 10. They've already used their first timeout, so they're confident this would be the final drive of the game, except they just turned it over on the next play, and now it's gonna be almost impossible to win. Notre Dame fans know they should be good. They're already waving, but I think that's justifiable because even if they don't get a first down, they're in field goal range. The only way NC State gets back into it is if they forced a fumble, or if the Fighting Irish did something terribly dumb like this, going for it on 4th and 2. They're not kicking a field goal, but they've gotten lucky. They didn't drop the ball, they completed a pass, and I guess they didn't trust their kicker to finish the job. Either way, they are moving on to the round of 32, and they'll be getting the winner of TCU and Tulane. Judging by the fact that with 36 seconds left, they're up by 10 points, and they're just running out the rest of this clock. They're going to take down TCU, but they also made sure to score 1 more touchdown just to rub it in at the end. The baby blue jerseys have survived for a little bit longer, and coming up in this region, we should have a lot of games that end pretty close. This is a great chance for South Carolina to prove that they really were a couple calls away from being a playoff team. But you all know what happens whenever the 12 seeds take the field. They tend to win. We still have yet to see a 5 seed come out on top, and that's how the Gamecocks are trailing by 3 at the moment. Lenora Sellers is going to drop it into their hands, and Pittsburgh could not have gotten any luckier with that play. They're going to go for the dunk. That's that celebration from the trailer. And if they get a first down, this one is over. South Carolina's got the pressure on them, but they did this to themselves. All they had to do was not turn it over right there. And I think the Panthers might just throw it on 3rd and 9. They want to end this game. They're going to have somebody open that brings it in. So I don't know why this kid's celebrating. All they have to do is take a knee and it is over. Which means 12 seeds are now 3 for 3 whenever it comes to pulling off the upset. I thought this might be where that streak ended, but Pittsburgh had other plans, and we'll see if Boston College can have just as much success success as a lower seed. At least on paper, this is a pretty even matchup. And going into the fourth quarter, the Fighting Illini were up 27-6, but if they give up this 4th and 1 for a touchdown, it's going to be a one-possession game. That happened fast. Even better, the Eagles are going for the 2-point conversion. They are going to pick it up, and they're saying they would rather trust their defense than go for an onside kick. They still have all 3 of their timeouts left. I believe this is always the right move. Just because of field positioning especially, they're almost in field goal range if you go for the onside kick. We might be witnessing a massive choke from Illinois here, though they're going to get a good run on 2nd down, and it's all going to come down to one play. I bet they just keep it on the ground though, since they don't need that many yards. Boston College should have been prepared for that, but the Eagles weren't, so they're just going to have to deal with taking the loss to Illinois, getting eliminated in the first round. I will say though, having a 38% completion percentage is abysmal, and I don't think that'll be enough to get the Fighting Illini past Pittsburgh in the next round. We'll find that out another time though. Marshall comes into this game as a conference champion of the Sun Belt, and clearly somebody needs to get them an invitation to the American Conference, because with that stop, they were able to seal their 21-3 win over the Tigers. They just came out as an 11 seed and played incredibly, mainly on the defensive side of the ball, and they're the first 11 seed to get on to the round of 32 so far. Now, I know that Washington didn't have a great year, but having them as a 14 seed just makes things difficult for the Mustangs. But SMU was a playoff team, so if they can't handle this opponent, they don't deserve to move on. There's actually a decent chance that they're not going to either, as they're only up by 3. But Will Rogers needs to do a little bit more than just completing 1-yard passes. Doing it one time might be understandable. Doing it twice in a row, that's a bad decision, and this time, he actually threw to a receiver past the marker, but he dropped the football. It's all good though. We have this next play for them to do something, and he had no time. SMU is now going to get to run out the clock if they get a first, and it's 2nd and 14, which means they need to see a little bit more. Rashard Smith has basically nowhere to go. I think that's Preston Stone that's out there at quarterback though, and so I'm starting to wonder if Kevin Jennings got injured, and that's why it's so close. What did I say? He had a high ankle sprain. He's out for the rest of the game, but he would be back for the round of 32. And it's not like this one can go to overtime. Either the Mustangs defense clutches up one more time, or SMU loses this game on a last-second touchdown, which would be super sad for them. We're going to see if the 14 seed can create some excitement. They're past midfield, and if they celebrate for too long, that clock's going to run. I'm telling you though, in the Orange Bowl Stadium, they don't watch the replays. They get right up to the line to spike the ball. So we don't need multiple neutral sites anyway. This works. That pass is way off. And this is the most realistic sim we have seen on a tournament and imperialism video so far, just because everything is good time management wise. All teams need is 20-30 seconds to get down the field. Washington's been doing it. They make the catch, but he was just nudged out of bounds instead of going for 6. That leaves 7 seconds left on the clock. I'd say Washington has 2 shots at the end zone. Will Rogers is going to get this one out, or he's going to take a sack. And if you put your team in that position, you have to at least give one of your receivers a chance to make a play to win the game against SMU. Oh well, that one was still a classic. There's only 2 games left in the Midwest region, and this is going to be a Louisville hate watch, even though I'm literally about to move right back up there. It's time I come home. Can't believe I'm saying this, but I have missed Kentucky. And without Air Force being in the top 68 of the power rankings, all of the military schools have been eliminated with Navy losing. The Cardinals took care of business 24-7, leaving us with Arizona State, and Oklahoma as a 15 seed. I forgot that they were seeded that low. Whenever you look at these rosters, you would think that the Sooners were the 2 seed and the Sun Devils were the 15 seed in this matchup. And I think if Arizona State's going to survive, Cam Scadaboo's going to have a career performance. He is in the position to close this one out though. His team is up by 3. There's only 2 minutes left. He had a mean stiff arm, and 5 yards is all the Sun Devils need to put them away, but they have their backup out there on the field. He's also out there for 3rd and 2. It looks like it is going to not work, and by just settling for 3, no, they go with the fake. That's even worse. I was going to say by settling for 3, at least they're going to have a 6-point lead. They need a touchdown to win. But no, they thought they were clever, and now Jackson Arnold can get his team a field goal to tie it up. They're already past the 35-yard line. They only need about 30 more yards. They're coming close. And we could have seen this 15 seed just get eliminated, but instead that might not happen. The Arizona State decision-making just made no sense. You pull out your best player for 2nd down, for 3rd down, then you go for the fake field goal. And they better get a stop on this 3rd and 3. That is really what they need right now. He could have had that. I mean, it looked like Jackson Arnold just shut his eyes and threw the ball wherever it went. He got lucky that it worked out. That must be what he did on this play as well, because the Sun Devils clutch up. And I guess the 2 seed is going to be moving on to the round of 32 instead of losing to Oklahoma. To finish out this region, we are not going to see an upset. And whenever Cam was out there on the field, he rushed for 131 yards, only 14 attempts though. In my opinion, you got to feed him the ball more, but what do I know? I just sit in my room and play video games. And it's time that we get to the final region in the round of 64, the the West region. If Auburn or North Carolina wants to be a part of it, they're going to have to win their first 4 games. And these are another couple of teams that probably shouldn't be 16 seeds. If it was up to me, which I guess it kinda is, there should have been some other MAC schools in there that finished like 8 and 5 instead of some 5 and 7 Power 4 schools, but I went off of the CBS Sports Power Rankings. They had these teams at the end, and Auburn is down by 6 with a minute left on the clock. They're an 87 overall team, so if they come out on top of this game, I could see them giving Oregon some problems. It turns out the 12-team playoff isn't the only spot where the Ducks could get screwed. The seeding in my version of March Madness isn't necessarily fair either. It looks like that could have been picked though. And Auburn fans, let's be real here. Let's have a heart-to-heart. Are we seeing anything new out of Peyton Thorne, or is this what you experienced all year? It is now going to be 4th and 5, where he's about to take a sack. He doesn't get it out. And that means North Carolina is moving on. They've escaped the first 4, and what is their reward for that? Playing 1-seeded Oregon immediately, so they have a tough road ahead. The Ducks are one of the highest overall teams in the game, coming in at a 95, but they've never been able to win a national championship, so that could hold them back. I was gonna say maybe not in this game, but future ones, except they're struggling. And with a minute and a half left, they're tied with the Tar Heels. They also just kept running the ball instead of trying to throw it, so they're settling for 3. And I didn't think we'd see a 16 seed pull off a first round upset, but it might happen. They're gonna have to complete passes like that one though, taking that pressure, they're going down. And he just stared into his soul as he got sacked. He froze like a deer in headlights. You've got to get that ball out. They're generating great pressure. And it looks like Oregon might be able to survive against North Carolina. We'll see what happens on 4th and 20 though. They're going for the run instead of a pass, and he's well short. It is also pretty hard to tell, but I think North Carolina still has 3 timeouts left. And if they do, this game's not over as long as they don't get a first down. But apparently that was their last timeout, so that was it. It was a close call, but Dylan Gabriel and the Ducks survived. And all I can ask for is competitive matchups. I am glad that's been delivered so far. Baylor and Florida could also turn into a pretty good game, but instead it was just a blowout, 27-6. The Bears could not do anything versus the Gators defense, and that made DJ Lagway's life extremely easy. Things are going to be much different for him in the next round though, and just the fact that Alabama gets to come in as a 5 seed is probably going to end the streak of all the 12 seeds winning. If Texas Tech can pull this off, I'd be very impressed. But sure enough, they just came out and demolished the Red Raiders. It is currently 45-3. This is going to go down as one of the biggest wins that we have seen in the tournament so far. And maybe Jalen Milroe's about to go on a little bit of a redemption run. It is very unfortunate that he ended up being on the same part of the bracket as Boise State. And we might not even see Ashton Genty in the next round. They have to get past the Cougars first. To no surprise, he's out there with about no time left, getting some better stats. And this region has been terrible whenever it comes to giving us some close, entertaining games. We had another blowout on our hands. Maddox Madsen won player of the game. And Genty also had like 140 rushing yards. It wasn't even a competition. Maybe this next matchup will be better though. We have the MAC champion versus the Mountain West runner-up. And I am encouraging anybody that remembers what the Ohio Bobcats did in the first Imperialism on College Football 25 to like the video right now and also subscribe, because clearly you've been around for a while. They haven't had as good of a performance in this one. They're going to have to pick up this 4th and 19 to even stay in it versus UNLV, which they failed to do. They were only able to score 7 points, and they're going to be eliminated. The entire West region has basically just been chalk so far, but Kansas is a 14 seed about to take on Ole Miss. And if Lane Kiffin allows himself to get too distracted by Twitter pregame, this one might be interesting. This feels like our best shot in a while to have an upset, an underdog, and an entertaining matchup. But I don't even want to talk about it. There is nothing to see here. Basically, Kansas played like a 14 seed, but even if this region isn't super competitive right now, I think it's setting up for some really good games in the round of 32. If either of the remaining matchups were going to be close though, it would be this one. But USC has a 16-point comeback that they're trying to pull off, and just getting a touchdown there is not going to be good enough. They're going to need a 2-point conversion, then a defensive stop, and then to do the same thing all over again. They break the tackle attempt though, and there might be a little bit of life left for the Trojans. Of course, with a minute 40 left and 3 timeouts, they're just going to kick this one deep. Kansas State is going to return it, and they're going to take it to about the 15. So I could definitely see USC getting the ball again. It'll all depend on what DJ Giddens can do on the ground, and they're sniffing out the run. You got to throw it here, but they give it back to him, so they're punting. If USC were to pull off this 16-point comeback, that would make up for all the bad games that we have had in the West region so far. Is that Zach Branch? The speedster could have had a good return there, but instead he just ran straight into somebody. And all of this for an interception, a turnover that is going to end the game. So much for the Trojans giving us like an overtime comeback. It isn't happening. And I think the rest of this region is just going to be chalk. If that's not going to happen, we're going to need Miami, Ohio to pull off the upset of the century over Georgia. And this is a true lopsided 15 seed versus 2 seed matchup, not an Arizona State versus Oklahoma. I'm not even going to try and make it dramatic. Georgia scored 42 straight points after Miami, Ohio opened up the game with the first touchdown. And so the Bulldogs will be facing Kansas State in the round of 32. We have officially made it there though. We have gotten past one round of this March Madness tournament. And if I were to just rotate through all the brackets so far, you would see that 14 seeded Jacksonville State is the lowest seed remaining. Here in the East region though, where we started, there's a 12 seed in Arkansas, there's a 13 seed in Nebraska, and the first game is Ohio State against Texas A&M. See, the farther that we get into this tournament, the better that the matchup should become. But we have been on a dry streak, and Ohio State is just gonna obliterate Texas A&M. They should have won by this much though. They are the national champions for a reason, even if they couldn't beat Michigan. And I don't know how I just noticed this, but that would have been a sick second round matchup, except the Aggies beat the Wolverines. Oh well, next up we have two of the lowest seeds remaining in this entire tournament. And with just under a minute remaining, Arkansas is down by 3. They immediately decided that they just want to hand the game to Nebraska on a silver platter, but they wouldn't take the interception. And I remember how the Razorbacks got here. They beat Miami in an overtime thriller. They clutched up at the very end of the game. But at the moment, their players don't seem to believe in doing that. They just dropped what would have been a massive catch on 4th and 8. They're going to somehow get this ball. There was a cornerback for Nebraska right there in front of him, right? Like, I'm not just seeing things. That could have easily been knocked down. I know I like to joke about Nebraska and how they're super unlucky. They lose a lot of games that they probably shouldn't. But like right here, he just stopped. Singleton is now under investigation by the University of Nebraska for using sports gambling apps while playing football. At least that is what I'm imagining, because that is the only logical explanation for what we just saw. I don't know what Arkansas has done to get this lucky, but they are really thriving. And on 3rd and 10, Dylan Raiola is going to have plenty of time back there to get this ball out. It is a laser, and that's going to take them to midfield. Okay, maybe not all hope is gone yet, especially since those 2 timeouts could come in extremely useful, and they just went with the same play. It turns out the computer's pretty good at figuring out 4 verticals is the right play to call over and over. It looks like he is going to actually scramble. They don't normally do that. Normally on this game, they just stop at the line of scrimmage, stand around real awkwardly, then throw it away. Like right there. He wasn't trying to escape the pocket though. 3rd and 2, 6 seconds left. This could be the final play of the game, especially if this pass is inbounds. And I don't think it is being understood how lucky they are that they dropped that ball. There's still a second left on the clock. They have a touchdown on the left side of the field. And what has just happened? Nebraska has survived. This is what I've been waiting for. A game like this, it came down to the last play. And Dylan Raiola really is just as lucky as Patrick Mahomes got this last season. If Nebraska's going to keep finding ways to magically win, Ohio State might want to watch out. And I forgot how stacked this East region really is. There's so many good teams that are still left. With all this talent, we have another great one on our hands. Colorado's down by 7. But they have the ball. Shedeur Sanders is trying to go to work, and they were targeting Travis Hunter. I think if he waited like another second there, he could have just dropped that right under his hands for him to run onto. It doesn't matter though, because they're going to midfield. And there's still about 45 seconds left. By the time that they're able to get up to the ball though and spike it, there's only going to be 30 seconds left. And the easiest way to avoid getting into a situation like this is don't play bad in the first 3.5 quarters. That's going to be an interception. Tennessee has done it against Colorado onto the Sweet 16. And that really wasn't open. I'm not sure why he put the ball there. This is a hard video for me to film. Kentucky's rivals are doing well. They didn't even make the tournament because we were so bad. And I don't think the future of Kentucky football is looking too good either, so I just need us to not be a first round exit in March Madness this year. That is my one wish, since I think the bracket was just revealed like a day before this goes live. And even though Indiana's coming into this game as a 2 seed, they might have some issues with Missouri. I wasn't sure if EA got their rosters right or not, but they must have, because they made sure the Tigers couldn't win. And they literally destroyed them 38-13. Curtis Rourke is now a part of the Sweet 16, and I think we should play a fun game. We should see how many teams that made the 12-team playoff in real life were able to get to the Sweet 16 in this March Madness tournament. I want to say so far they're 3 for 3. I don't think anybody that made the playoffs has lost in this tournament yet, but there's going to be plenty of chances in the rest of the round of 32 for that to happen. I can't really say this is exactly Exhibit A. I don't know how Iowa's offense is going to perform. But to what I think is everybody's surprise, it has not been their offense that's been the problem. They have given up 38 points on defense, and yet they still find themselves in this game as time winds on down. But if they're going to beat Texas, they're going to have 40 seconds to get down the rest of the field. They're trailing by 5. They've been able to get this snap off. We'll see if they complete the pass. They do. And I don't even know what I'm witnessing at this point. I thought this was going to be a blowout. Here is the beauty in March Madness, though. This is why nobody has ever been able to get a perfect bracket. You can't predict what'll happen. This year, though, I'm going to get my perfect bracket. It's going to happen for the first time, all until like we're 3 games into the tournament. I was not doing much. It is now 4th and 3. They have 11 seconds from midfield to get a touchdown, and that will be enough to get a first down at least. They're still standing as well. But with 1 second left on the clock, because of all the fighting they didn't even have a chance to spike the ball, so Texas will survive. I might have just expanded the tournament to 68 teams, all for the teams that made the playoffs in the first place to still get to the Sweet 16. This is why there needs to be a limit for how large tournaments can expand to, and that goes for all sports, or else where's it going to be by 2050? By then, I can't wait to have my 17 different streaming app subscriptions so I can watch all the college football games that are going on across the country. And don't even get me started on a rant of where I think the future of college football could end up being. There's a lot of parts that aren't looking too good for us as fans. But for now, we will appreciate the amazing sport that we have, and also the fact that Vanderbilt's kept it within 10 with Clemson. Now, they just hurt themselves by calling their first timeout, but they didn't really have a choice. If they're going to pull off this comeback with a minute left, they needed to use it at some point. And after their receiver ran backwards instead of getting the first down, they decided to kick 3. We'll see if that pays off for them. They have to get the onside kick. And we have seen a team recover one of these before, but it's going to skip to the second level. That is not going to work out for the Commodores. If you believe in miracles, they might be able to get the ball back. And what is Clemson thinking coming out and play action there? Oh, they're just going to run for a first, basically. That'll do it. 40-second play clock, 39 seconds left on the clock. And they didn't even get their chance to return a punt or something. That now makes it 5 playoff teams that have made it to the Sweet 16. And we already saw the Clemson-Texas matchup this year. Syracuse and Jacksonville State, though, one of those teams is new. And I'm personally rooting for Jacksonville State since they're the lowest seed that's still in this tournament. It's March. You gotta root for the underdogs. If you're not doing that, I don't know what you're doing. And it looks like with 2 minutes left, the Gamecocks are not out of this one. They are trailing by a point, though, so if they can't get into field goal range, they aren't going to beat the Orange. So we'll see whether or not Tyler Huff can make a name for himself. On 3rd and 3, they had the catch, but it was dropped. They're pretty much going to lose all hope if they can't get this, and what a play. It's a game of inches. He was just able to get a finger on that ball. But hang on now, they can still stop the clock one more time, and then there's enough time remaining to where no matter what happens on this next play, Jacksonville State will get themselves another chance. It looks like they're going to have about 30 seconds left, but they're going to be down by 4. So all of a sudden, it is much harder to win this game. A field goal was far more manageable than a touchdown, but this return could go for a lot. If he wasn't busy truck in the air, he might have been able to penetrate that hole a little bit quicker and gotten a bigger gain. Now it looks like they're just going to roll out, throw it away. That's the brilliant AI going to work on this game, and if they take a sack here, it is all over. You got to get rid of it. It is time where you just throw it up, hope for the best, at least do that. Don't do it again. Do not throw this away. Okay, that's worse. I have no words. In fact, I'm surprised that they were even able to keep it that close with Syracuse. But their offense must have been doing something right before we started watching it. With Jacksonville State being eliminated, the lowest seed that is still standing in this tournament is going to be a 13 seed with Nebraska. And they've already punched their ticket on to the next round, unlike some of these other schools. Minnesota's also in a pretty tough spot with a minute and a half left. They find themselves down by 13. But if they can be smart enough to just hang on to those 3 timeouts, the door will always be open for a comeback. I thought they were about to go with the halfback draw there. Instead, they're completing a pass inside the 6. And guess what they did? They used a timeout. They just cost themselves 40 seconds. That better have been worth it. You got to get rid of this. And we will see what they have drawn up for 2nd and goal. That's going to be a catch, then dropped. If you hit a dude hard enough, he had no choice but to bust that out of his hands. I mean, I don't know how he could have held on. And Minnesota is working their way back in, but they are going to need to get lucky. I really want to see them get the ball back because with this extra point, a touchdown wins it. But they need to get the onside kick or a very, very fast 3 and out. Even then, a 3 and out might not be enough either, depending on Penn State's kicker. And that's why I was saying, save the 3 timeouts and kick it deep. Here we go, though. It's going to be 3rd down, and they have come out to just take a knee. I guess they were going to play it safe, and they're going to punt the ball. But what they've done, and the entire reason I made sure that we stayed watching this game, is they have given Minnesota a chance with 19 seconds left. Believe it or not, in some of the tournament and imperialism videos, we have seen crazier comebacks than this. And so I always hold out hope. I have even seen a Hail Mary get tipped into a touchdown. Without that play working out for them though, it's going to be pretty hard for this one to go in their favor. At least the ball is up in the air. It's going to be short of the end zone, and no one caught it. I will never forget the game though where that same similar type of play got tipped into a receiver catching it and running for a touchdown. We just weren't lucky enough to get that type of result there. I should have known that every team that made it to the playoffs in real life is just going to get to the Sweet 16. But maybe the Midwest region is where that's going to change. Notre Dame has to beat Tulane, SMU has to beat Marshall, and Arizona State has to beat Louisville. So who knows, that might lead to some entertaining results. Normally, this would be a little bit too premature to hop into a game, but I wanted to see if they got a touchdown. And Tulane was able to do so, which is going to put them up by 2 possessions. Notre Dame's had a pretty rough offensive game so far. They got held to 3 field goals in the first half. And I guess their defense just hasn't been able to stop the Green Wave's offense. I'm not sure. They've given up 31. Riley Leonard is putting in work. But on the other side of the 2-minute timeout, his team is still down by 15 points, and they're going to need a miracle if they're not going to lose. We saw in the last region, though, the 1 seed was able to overcome some adversity. I just think this is too big of a hole for Notre Dame to get out of it now, and that sack might just do it. They're probably going to be tempted to use a timeout no matter what happens on this play. That throwing motion was insane, but it was caught. I thought it was at least. It lit up a circle like he had held onto the football there. I guess they knocked it loose. On 3rd and 16, Riley Leonard went back to his legs. He hesitated for a split second there, but at the end of it all, they called a timeout. That basically ruins Notre Dame's chances, but you know what? We are about to witness the first number 1 seed in this tournament losing, and they just decided to give up using another timeout. It is all going to come down to an onside kick if they get in, and I can't believe that a team is not going to get to the Sweet 16 that was in the playoffs. I mean, the path for all those schools was laid out. All of them are 1 through 4 seeds. There's a touchdown, but you better not celebrate too much. They're going to need a 2-point conversion at some point. They've passed on it for now, and to be honest, that is the right decision, but you're going to have a game-breaking play the next one anyway, and Tulane scoops up the onside kick. That is going to do it. We have seen the first 1 seed fall. Notre Dame made a run to the championship in real life, but I guess they couldn't handle a freshman quarterback in that one. Tulane's going to get the winner of Pittsburgh and Illinois, and I would definitely not count out the Panthers in this matchup. Literally, both of these teams have the exact same overall build. So then it comes down to coaching, experience, grit. Who wants it more? I'm just rambling at this point. But I say all that to say the 4-seeded Fighting Illini are currently trailing by 6, and they have the ball. What they can do with this is up to their quarterback. He's been able to get them past midfield so far. Another completion, 3 in a row. But will Luke Altmaier be able to finish the job? It feels like on every single play, somebody is getting injured, whether it's on Pittsburgh or Illinois. The Panthers are going to come up with a big pick. And is their thing to just go ahead and dunk the football in that goal? I feel like that clip's coming. Here it is. I gotta say, this is pretty unique compared to just having a turnover chain or something. And with the lower seed coming out on top, I think they're the second double-digit seed to make it to the Sweet 16. What a run for the Panthers so far. Marshall could be the 3rd double-digit seed to make it to the next round. Or SMU could get back to the point where they'd only need to win 4 games to win a championship. Going into this one, I was afraid it might have been a blowout, and it's not like it's necessarily a close game. But Marshall isn't out of it yet. They were just able to get to midfield, down by 14. They're going to their flat for nothing. And then they started using timeouts. This is going to be another one of those games where they need a touchdown, then the onside kick, and it's just not likely. But you never know what could happen. On 3rd and 13, they complete the pass. And I just want to see a crazy comeback at some point. If that's what it took to put out 3-seeded SMU, I mean, that would be great content. And Marshall is 1 step closer to making it happen. They're even going for the 2-point conversion, so if they do get the ball back, they could win this game with a touchdown. That spin was beautiful. But it's a shame if you're a Marshall fan, because didn't all these players transfer? I'm pretty sure they had like 30 guys enter the portal. The onside kick is scooped up, so we did waste our time watching it, I guess. But I think Braylon Braxton's 2-point conversion run made that worth it. And the final 2 teams playing for a spot in the Sweet 16 out of the Midwest region are Louisville and Arizona State. The Cardinals might be coming into this as the lower seed, but I think they could win this. And sure enough, with 38 seconds left on the clock, the Sun Devils find themselves down by 3. They've simply made too many mistakes in this game, like right there. They should have caught that ball. They would have been in a much better position. This is held on to, but they had to use their final timeout. With it being spotted as a 3rd and inches, they really had no choice. A field goal still sends this game to overtime. But for at least one play, you have to focus on moving the chains, and they've come out in Wildcat where Cam is going to get them enough. Now, here's the thing about coming out in Wildcat. They're stuck in hurry up after that play. And they had no timeouts, but they have gotten over to another formation. It just took 10 seconds seconds off the clock, and this is getting them closer. Evidently, they feel like that was enough to be in field goal range. This is going to be a 58-yard attempt. It is going to miss. And I don't even think you can blame Arizona State's kicker for that. He needed to be a bit closer. The offense let him down. Louisville goes on to the Sweet 16. And the Midwest region turned out to be where we finally got that chaos with both the Irish and the Sun Devils getting eliminated. Now, the last time we came over to the West region and looked at this bracket, I called it the most boring one because it was basically all chalk. But that could all change fast, starting with Florida taking on Oregon. We could also get the opposite though. DJ Lagway just didn't play well versus the Ducks. They're going to lose by 21. And that means that Oregon is easily moving on to the Sweet 16 where they're going to face the winner of the next one. They're just 4 games away from a championship now. And this is where Boise State gets a very unlucky second round draw. If the Broncos are going to win this one, Ashton Genty's going to have to rush for at least 200 yards. And with 3.5 minutes left, Boise State is making a decision to go for it on 4th and 3. They're down by 5. They're being very aggressive, but it's going to pay off for them. They were able to hold on to the football. Ashton Genty was open over in the flat, and they eventually found him. That is not everything the Broncos are going to need, though. Now their defense has to come up clutch. And to even make this a 3-point game, they're going to have to get the 2-point conversion, which they don't. It's also not taken Jalen Milroe very long to get down the field, but that sack to make it 3rd and 17 might be massive. Without that, Alabama was easily in field goal range. They probably still are. He almost took another, though, and the throw on the run for a touchdown is going to be a great play. Boise State went man-to-man coverage without being able to cover. And that's why you have Jalen Milroe for moments like that. On the 2-point conversion, I don't think anyone's covering him. So Boise State made that about as easy as it could have possibly been. And they don't have very long to respond back, especially if they're going to drop everything. I cannot blame their tight end for not holding on to that ball, though. Alabama is hitting extremely hard, and the Boise State receiver was able to draw a pass interference flag. That gets them a new set of downs at the 37, which is extremely helpful, especially if they're calling a timeout. It's too early to do that. There was still over 1.5 minutes left on the clock. Leaving Ashton Genty open is a very bold decision. And if Boise State scores too fast, then they're just going to give Jalen Milroe way too much time to respond. That's why I'm confused with the timeout calls. It's like they're preserving the clock for him so he has his moment. And what did I say? Ashton Genty needed 200 rushing yards to win this game, but he only has 165, so I bet they lose. The Broncos are really just going to need something to go their way on defense, and they get that. They get an interception on Jalen Milroe. They're at the 40, and I am so glad that this is the game that I think we've watched the most of. It has been an incredible one. A first down would seal the game, because I just don't see the computer missing many field goals, unless it's from about this far away, which it looks like it's going to be. They've also left some time on the clock for Alabama to get one themselves still, but they made the mistake of taking the kick out of the end zone, returning it to the 16, and taking time off the clock in the process. Boise State backed up their defenders, which was the smart decision, but now they've gone back to pressing, and that could lead to a huge gain for Alabama. They're going to lose on the final play of the game because they thought they should press. Ryan Williams, he might not even be 18 still, just outran all those kids. And I just have no words. What a brutal way for Boise State to go out. It's a great way for Alabama to finish out this game, though. Final play right here. I don't think we have another exciting one. And why would you throw it away? At least put the ball up so you have a chance. That performance from Jalen Milroe was genuinely incredible. If he can do that against Oregon, they might be able to knock off the Ducks too. And I think the Mountain West Conference is about to take back-to-back losses to the SEC. The Rebels have just had a really hard time scoring against Ole Miss so far. And with 1.5 minutes left on the clock, they just used their first timeout. It might have allowed them to regroup to get to the 21 though. We'll see if they're able to reach the end zone. That pass has given them a chance. And we might still be able to see an electrifying finish in this one. They're just going to have to get a good play. They've actually benefited from this injury timeout. They did not have to use one of their own. With a lot of time back there, they're going to find someone, but he's not in. That makes it 2nd and goal on the 1. They used their second timeout, and it's going to cost them any chance that they had by simply not just extending that ball over the goal line. I'm not sure where he thinks he's going to go here, but apparently it was nowhere. They're going to come up short after looking so promising. That is unbelievable. You cannot step out of bounds in that spot. Even if they got a safety, they're still going to be down by 2 possessions. They're not coming back. And that means Ole Miss is going to be able to move on to the next round. That leaves us with just one game left before the Sweet 16 between Georgia and Kansas State. And I take anything back I said about other regions. This is by far the toughest one. Especially if Georgia wins this, the teams it's sending to the Sweet 16 are super tough. And there was a window for Kansas State to have success if they could have simply just scored more. Now they're going to make their first big play in a while. But about 30 seconds later, they're going to be on a 4th and 11, and they're going to get a touchdown out of it. I'm not going to lie. I'd given up on 2 possession games. I thought this one was over. I didn't really care to see what they did on that drive, but if they get this onside onside kick, maybe it would have been worth it. It went straight into the hands of the Bulldogs. And ever since that first onside kick in this video, we've yet to see one recovered, but I am sure there will be another one before the end of it. That might be some hopeful wishing, but we'll see what happens, and it's time to get all these teams into the Sweet 16 bracket. From here on out, one of these teams is going to win this March Madness tournament. And to open up the Sweet 16, we have Nebraska, the lowest seed remaining at 13, taking on the Buckeyes, who have yet to have a close matchup. There might be another one seed that is about to fall though, because after Nebraska got off to like a 35-14 start, they've been able to maintain that lead, but it's gotten closer. This was like the last thing I was expecting. Any other upset in this round I could have probably seen, but not Nebraska playing this well. Maybe they are about to have a super lucky run. I mean, that just made it 4th and 28 for the Buckeyes, and there's only 30 seconds left on the clock now. I'm not sure why they didn't use one of their timeouts. They're going down again, and I think we have found the issue. I don't know what happened to Ohio State's offensive line, but that would explain them losing. And we have a freshman quarterback leading a 13-seeded team into the Elite Eight. I feel like Nebraska's in a pretty good spot too, because they get the winner of Tennessee and Indiana. And that's not to discredit either of these teams. They just have lucked out by not having like a Penn State or a Georgia in their region. We have lucked out with another good game as well. Indiana finds themselves down by 3, and they have a little less than a minute to get into field goal range. On 3rd and 7, Curtis Rourke is going to throw it straight to the Volunteers, so they're going to pull off the win. And just to rub salt in the wound, they took this one back to the crib. It was looking like Indiana was going to be able to send this game to overtime, but Tennessee was too strong, and Ricky Gibson III definitely deserves player of the game for that stop. I really hate to say it, but I think Tennessee is going to make it to the Final Four. And here's our rematch of a playoff game that we already got this season. It's going to be an interesting finish, that's for sure, with the Longhorns down by a point. And I'm curious to see how they play this. All they have to do is get into field goal range and they'd be fine. But Quinn Ewers just turned the ball over, Clemson's waving, and they might not realize this one's not over. Texas saved all of their timeouts still. And so with a 3 and out, they can get the ball back. A field goal is all they need. But Phil Maffa is going to run it hard. That's why they are bringing up as many people as they can to stop this run. We will see how many he can get right here. They got him in the backfield. And it comes down to a 3rd and 6 where I could see a halfback draw, but they have Cade Klubnik throwing it, and it's swatted. This is why you can't get too excited. All Texas needs is a field goal. That punt didn't land where it wanted to. But if the ball bounced a little bit differently, they could have had them pinned inside the 5. I mean, Clemson must trust their defense. They had 8 guys on the line of scrimmage before this one was snapped. They're going to tackle them right at the marker. And with a minute left on the clock, Texas is going to find Isaiah Bond just streaking down the field. I mean, the speedster was going to get loose eventually. That's why I thought it was pretty dumb for them to be so aggressive with the press. They had a white dude on him as well. I'm not sure what Dabo Swinney was thinking there. And for the 2-point conversion, the Longhorns complete it. That means the best that Clemson can do now is send it to overtime unless they're really aggressive. But they got to worry about a touchdown first. I've been waiting for this though. After we saw a lot of blowouts in those first couple of rounds, I wanted these games. And we'll see if Cade Klubnik is able to make anything happen. It looks like he's about to go down. If you're a Clemson fan, it's no longer looking too good for you all. That almost worked out. And on 4th and 17, what is the plan here? Just get hit before you make a throw. That one is not on Cade. He started his throwing motion the second that ball snapped, and he was still able to get hit before he could get it fully released. So we just witnessed a crazy clutch up from Texas after that interception. I feel like Syracuse and Penn State always meet in these types of videos as well, especially Imperialism just off a location. And I kind of feel bad for the Orange. Kyle McCord can only do so much. He's been able to get them 13 points in this game, but that's not going to be enough. And Abdul Carter is literally just eating him alive. I don't think there's an answer for stopping a player like him though. I mean, he's destroying that tackle. And that's why he deserves to be drafted so highly. I'm sure Orange fans were hoping for a little bit better there, maybe scoring more points, but at least they didn't get blown out. And that's going to give us a great matchup in the Elite Eight, especially because for this next region, we have a couple of teams I wasn't expecting to be here. This game is an automatic 8-seed or lower that's going to be a lock for the next round. And of all the games to be a blowout, this was the last one I was expecting. I thought we were going to get an amazing matchup, but instead it was just Tulane dominating, especially defensively, holding them to no points. And I guess it's starting to make sense now how they were able to beat Notre Dame. With a defense like that, SMU and Louisville got to be pretty worried, but they also have to worry about getting past each other first. And it's as tight as it's gonna get with a minute left on the clock. Kevin Jennings down by 3 points, but he also has SMU in a decent spot. Assuming he can get them like 15, 20 more yards, they'll be able to kick a field goal, send it to overtime, and he found an open receiver. He has 337 passing yards, 5 touchdowns in this game so far. So it's really just been his defense letting him down. And I'm curious to see how aggressive the Mustangs are before kicking a field goal, except Louisville's forced the ball loose. There is no way that is how the 7 seed is going to move on to the Elite 8. This has been the worst tournament as a Kentucky fan. And to my luck, either Louisville or Tennessee is going to win the entire thing. What can I say though? Tyler Shuck threw for almost 500 yards. They deserve to come out on top. And that was one of those amazing college football games where defense just doesn't exist. I feel like we have been left with 2 incredible games to wrap up the Sweet 16. And sure enough, Alabama has 20 points to Oregon's 10 with a little less than 2 minutes left, where I thought they were picking that. The Crimson Tide came into this game as the lower seed, as the 5 seed, but it has not made a difference at all. They're going to be short, and there's the use of the first timeout. If you're a Ducks fan, that is the last thing that you want to see right there. All they needed was like half a yard more to get into the end zone. Dylan Gabriel, with all the time in the world, cannot hook up with any of his receivers, and they kicked a field goal. There was no shot they were going to kick it deep either. With 2 timeouts left, Alabama's going to scoop that ball up with one hand, and they could get it back with like 30 seconds left, but Oregon just hurt themselves by kicking 3. I don't care if they're able to stop the run. That was a terrible decision, especially because if Alabama decides to take a long field goal, assuming they stop them here, which they do, they won't even have a chance to win unless they can block this kick or he misses it, which it's going straight in. They should have put Dylan Gabriel up on the line, giving him a little bit of a tush push, but instead they're going to let Alabama have a chance at getting even more championships. With all these results, the only conference champion that is still in the tournament's Georgia, and Ole Miss has an opportunity to end that with a win. The Rebels aren't exactly in the most favorable of positions though, and that's because with a minute and a half left on the clock, they find themselves down by 8, so they need a 2-point conversion. Jackson Dart is doing what he does though. He's throwing some darts. This one he just got out in time. And this is a tough Georgia defense that he's going up against, but his offensive line just did him really well. I watched Mikael Williams hit a spin move on his pass rush and just get shoved straight into the dirt. That's another 10. But what we are looking at now is a run because they might as well just hand it off. They've already committed to using timeouts. There is no game plan if they happen to not get the 2-point conversion. And there's no way that they're going to have Jackson Dart spike the ball. An absolute wild and terrible decision with 53 seconds left on the clock, making it 4th and goal after this. They would have had all the time in the world to do whatever they wanted to, but it's okay. It all comes down to one play now. Will Georgia get the stop? They have guys running in his face and they hit him. We're going to be getting a Georgia-Alabama matchup in the Elite 8 for a spot in the Final Four. But before that big game, we have some other ones to get through. There are still multiple underdog runs that could lead to a championship. We have Nebraska left, we have Louisville, and we even have Tulane. So we're not left with just the best of the best. The 4 best are actually all playing each other. But Tennessee needs to keep in mind, Nebraska just handled Ohio State. Turns out they came prepared. I mean, what is there even to say about this? It's over. It was never a close game. In fact, Tennessee was up 31-0 until the 4th quarter, where Nebraska finally scored a little bit. And the 13 seed had a great run, but it's going to end before they can reach the Final Four. That was the battle of the freshman quarterbacks, and Tennessee's came out on top. But they can't be too excited that for a spot in the championship, they're going to have to face either Penn State or Texas. I'm not sure if the Nittany Lions have the Longhorns where they want them either. Right now, Texas has the ball, and they're only down by 3. We'll see if Abdul Carter's able to get in some good pass rush. Not there. In the last round, we saw Quinn Ewers clutch up whenever his team was down, though that could have been intercepted. And it probably should have been intercepted. He's getting some great blocks with his left tackle, though. Abdul Carter is being shut down right now. If that's Kevin Banks Jr., it makes sense. But apparently, they didn't have an eye for everybody on the Penn State defensive line. If Texas doesn't get this 4th and 9, they're going to be in a pretty tough spot, even though they did save all their timeouts, and they just get it into a tight window. And somehow the Nittany Lions couldn't see that ball. It was a bold throw from Quinn, but it's going to work out for them. As long as they get a field goal, we're going to get overtime. But there's no guarantees being in this position. We saw SMU mess it up versus Louisville, and that was it. He literally hit a Penn State defender in the chest, and they're still just not catching the football. The ball came out there, and unless the refs decide to overturn it, Penn State's gonna beat Texas off of that stop. Since I'm spectating though, I don't think there's gonna be a challenge. And what did I say? There are no guarantees at the end of the game. Texas just learned the hard lesson that another team from Texas learned a round ago, and I think we have to check that stop out again. I need another angle on this. I mean, how did that ball pop loose? Was his knee down already? It's kind of unbelievable there wasn't a challenge at all, because if you look at his knee right here, it is down, and that ball is straight in his hands. And honestly, it didn't even come loose until like half a second later. It came loose there, but his knee had been down. That's bad. Texas just got robbed, and we got robbed of getting an overtime game. But sometimes that's just how things work out, and I can't believe these two teams are playing for a spot in the Final Four. They earned it though. They had to beat the best in their region to get to this moment. Louisville has a 14-point lead with a minute left on the clock. I mean, Tulane is going to need a miracle, which they might have just gotten. You know what I'm about to say though. They ruined it. They could have gotten the ball back without an onside kick if they just ran 10 seconds off of the clock, but instead they used a timeout. And it's been a while since we've seen a team get lucky. Maybe Tulane's kicker is going to set them up perfectly though. We need a light onside kick. That's what they got, but Louisville scoops it up. And this is ridiculous. Both the Cardinals and the Volunteers made the Final Four. It's okay. When Kentucky fires Mark Stoops and hires John Sumrall next year, I'll be much happier. And surely one of these two teams will just blast the Cardinals. This one has been a very weird game though, and I think it's because Jalen Milroe is injured. He's hurt, so he's not on the field. And with Ty Simpson running the Alabama offense, they have only scored 6. Those points could have come before Jalen Milroe got injured though. So I really don't know what Ty Simpson's done for them. What I do know is nobody's been able to score a touchdown in this game, and that's what Alabama needs to win. In case you were wondering as well, Jalen Milroe is not going to be healthy enough to come back for this game. But fortunately for the Crimson Tide, injuries don't carry over from round to round. So if they do happen to somehow win this, they would have him back in the next one. I feel like Georgia has Alabama right where they want them though. They know that they can stop them. That's a good little delay route. And if it were me, I'd be sending 7 dudes at him right now, putting him under some pressure. He's going to step up and scramble. Now, if I'm remembering right, an Alabama quarterback wanted to transfer to Notre Dame to play lacrosse, but I don't think that was Ty Simpson. And he's starting to put together a little bit of a drive here as they're now going to take it inside the 5. On 2nd and 2, he's hitting the RPO, and they're going to get just into the end zone. So all of a sudden, Georgia's going to be down by 1. With the ball in the hands of Carson Beck, who decided he wanted to transfer to Miami. We will see if he has one last moment of greatness with the Bulldogs before leaving. He's had his car stolen. This game's basically been stolen from him as well. But maybe he will be able to help them rebound back, and that is a perfect throw that Georgia's going to take to the crib. Carson Beck made it happen. Georgia is back on top. And do we think Ty Simpson is going to come up clutch in the final 30 seconds? I don't, unless Ryan Williams just made some like spectacular play. How did no one ever get to Beck? I think he literally just had 10 seconds back there. It's almost impressive that their pass rush was that bad in that situation. And it is not a good start to this drive for Ty Simpson. His receiver dropped the ball. He's getting chased around in the backfield. And he also had to start on the 14-yard line because they had a returner that thought he could make progress. 20 seconds left to score a touchdown now. Ty Simpson is going to get this one to midfield. And is that Ty Simpson back there, or are we witnessing Tom Brady? Another perfect pass. I have doubted the kid. I will never doubt Ty another day in my life, though that was risky. But he knows what he's doing. He's put them in this position. 8 seconds left to the end zone. Ryan Williams. What did I say? Ryan Williams would be the reason they make something happen. And do they go for the 2-point conversion? I'm honestly not sure. I'm okay with them kicking the extra point because with what we've seen out of Ty Simpson recently, he can get this done. Maybe Carson Beck has another miracle in his back pocket though. He just hands this one off and they almost got free. If Trevor Etienne housed that would have been insane. And it's been a while since we've gotten an overtime game. I think it was like the 3rd game in the round of 64, but what a start we're off to. It looks like the Crimson Tide are going to be able to punch it in with Ty Simpson, and he might not be Jalen Milroe, but he can still run it in with his legs. We might need to get him a watch though, so he's no longer pointing to a wristband. It's much cooler when Shedeur Sanders can point to something that's worth like $100K. But you know what? It's Alabama's time to shine anyway. I said that this team was a very dangerous 5 seed. If they can get more pressure, in which they do, where they even forced a fumble, this one's going to be very hard for Georgia to pull off. It's 3rd and 29. We will see if they can do it though. Over on that right side, the press coverage locked down well, and I really don't think there was anything there. 4th and 24 for the final spot in the Final Four, and Georgia is not getting enough. What a game. What a comeback from Ty Simpson there at the end. You need to be celebrating. Why are they acting upset? That was a great comeback. Jalen Milroe's labrum that tore is also going to magically heal, and there are no longer any conference champions remaining in this March Madness tournament. If this is the type of chaos we're going to get in the college basketball one this year, I'm so ready for it. And even the Final Four is taking place at the Orange Bowl in Miami because it's just a better viewing experience. I've told people at EA about the bugs, so maybe it'll be fixed by College Football 26. Look at this score with 2 minutes left. I guess there's more like 3, but Penn State is losing by 7 to Tennessee. they're going to have to score a touchdown on this drive. And the Volunteers just came to play in this game so far. I'm not sure we have seen them trailing in a single one yet. They're all over Nick Singleton. And this is a huge 4th and 5. Basically for a spot in the championship. Tyler Warren is wide open in the slot, by the way. I'm not sure if they're going to hit him. He was standing there waiting on the ball, but Drew Aller didn't make the read, and if Tennessee gets a first, it's over. Penn State still has their timeouts. But you never know when Dylan Sampson's going to bust off a big run, and he's fighting for every inch. On 3rd and 4, Nico is going to hand it off to him one more time. Penn State had no one over there to stop the run. And I think since they're in field goal range, even though he went out of bounds, there's nothing they can do. It would take a very, very unlucky fumble or something that will end it. And Tennessee has made it to the championship. I can't discredit them though. They've had a pretty good run. And no matter what happens between Louisville and Alabama, they're going to be the higher seed in that game. Just the fact that no 1 seeds even made the Final Four is pretty crazy. And it just doesn't make any sense. Alabama's trailing to the Cardinals by 10 with 3 minutes left. Were they better with Ty Simpson out there? I didn't think so, but maybe. Jalen Milroe's going to get them to the 26. And I will say, there's still plenty of time to where they could still pull off this 10-point comeback. They're just in a hard spot. Nobody wants to be trailing by this much with this much time left in the game. Jalen's trying to run, and I'm watching that Ryan Williams matchup over on the left side of the field. It seemed like they pressed him pretty well, and that could have easily been picked. This is where the Crimson Tide are taking more of a passive route. They're going to kick their 3, but Louisville messed up. That kid hit the kicker. That's a roughing the kicker penalty. This is a blessing for Alabama. They are now in a much better spot. They should get into the end zone, but they aren't going to do it before the 2-minute warning, which is not great. They're going to have their timeouts to get the ball back, but we haven't seen teams very good at forcing a 3 and out. Jalen Milroe turns it over, and the championship is actually going to be Louisville versus Tennessee. It's just unbelievable. I mean, Alabama's about to force a 3 and out. No, they give up a first down run, and there was no shot that after that Louisville was going to blow it. I just can't believe that both them and Tennessee made it all the way, and I guess I shouldn't have been as much of a hater as I was. This is what I get. Normally, by the time we make it to the championships and these imperialism tournament videos, all that time filming, I am pumped up to see who gets to lift the trophy. But tonight's a little bit different. I'm here for you all, so you all can see who comes out on top of this 68 team bracket. And nobody's had too much success offensively so far. Tennessee is the first team to get inside the red zone. There's a touchdown, and Squirrel White puts them up 7-0 against the Cardinals. It looks like they're going to have a chance to extend that to 14 as well, as pretty early on in the second quarter, they are down inside the red zone once again. Dylan Sampson gets the handoff, but he doesn't get much. You have to wonder if Nico just took off to that right side, he might have a touchdown himself, but he is throwing and they could have had it. If Louisville is going to compete though, they got to play better offensively, which sure enough, they would eventually figure out. Tyler Shuck has them down to the 7, and I'm very curious to see what they do if they don't pick up this 3rd and inches. Well, after James Pierce Jr. gets in, I know that they're going to settle for 3, and that's the big disruptor that's going to give them all of their offensive issues. As we reach about the midway point in the 3rd quarter, it's still a 7-point game, but it's not going to be for long because Tennessee is going to hit this field goal. And ever since then, Louisville has not been able to get it any closer. In fact, at one point they were down by 17, so 10's looking a lot better. And if they can't figure out how to do anything with this drive, we might not be getting a very entertaining championship. Even if it's 2 of the teams in college football I dislike the most, which says a lot because I don't dislike many teams, I still enjoy a good final game in these videos, so I'm glad that they caught that touchdown. Anyway, if I had to rank the teams I don't like in college football, it'd probably go Louisville, Tennessee, and then Florida, since we just started beating them, but as a kid, they ruined my life. And if your team isn't a part of that 3, then I really don't mind them unless the fan base is annoying. Getting back to the championship though, on 3rd down, Tennessee's gonna get stopped. And with them punting it back to the Cardinals, Louisville is going to have a chance to win it. Tyler Shuck needs to get his team 64 yards down the field, and we'll see if he can make that happen or not. They're already past the 50. We might even be able to get some overtime action in this one. You never know. Checkdowns aren't an awful option. And if you decided that you wanted to predict the championship or even the winner before the video started, I know you didn't pick either of these teams. Maybe you picked Tennessee. This matchup just caught me off guard. There is a pass interference penalty, and that is going to help out Louisville greatly as they're at the 24. They're still going to need some more yards though. All they have to do is not take a sack, and I'm doing my best to try and remain interested. Come on, someone do something entertaining here for us. First down. I actually think I would prefer if these teams avoided overtime, and Louisville is coming closer to doing that, but I just know now that they're under 30 seconds, they're probably going to go super passive. They're going to kick a field goal after running the football, unless they break a tackle and they're in. I really don't know how to react to this. Louisville's gonna win? It just doesn't really feel right getting super upbeat about it. I guess I can see how you all feel with other teams. Hang on. Okay, no, this game's awesome. This game's cool. I don't care. Throw all the rivalry crap out the window. We just got our first kick return for a touchdown in a tournament imperialism video. I've never seen that before. That was awesome. I have never seen them take it all the way back like that. Cameron Seldon, you know what, buddy? You just made a name for yourself right there. And I guess we need to watch this kickoff. What are the odds that Louisville does it right back to them? I feel like EA had to have increased something. Good little juke. But it's not gonna go anywhere. It seems like Tennessee is going to win the entire March Madness. That won't be caught. And that's how this one finishes out. That kickoff return was sick. Dylan Sampson's gonna win Championship Player of the Game, but I think it should have gone to Cameron Seldon. And if you enjoyed having a tournament video back, maybe I'll hit up one more imperialism before College Football 26. Just let me know what you want that imperialism theme to be. I'll think about it. I actually really like filming these. Make sure to leave a like if you made it this far and check out some of my other videos.